What's up, interweb? RhyQuinn here, and welcome back to another Meet the Coach interview for the GBA D-League Season 2, and today I am with the coach of the Houston Gastros, MandJTV. Hello, how you doing today, sir?
I am quite well. How are you, RhyQuinn?
I am doing very well, thank you very much for asking. So this is the last Meet the Coach interview that we're doing for GBA D-League Season 2. So this is the 8th coach you guys are potentially meeting today. If you haven't seen any of the others, go and watch them. And we're just going to get right into this one. So, we're going to start with a very, very basic question for you today. And that is, how long have you been playing Pokemon?
Well, I was 9 years old, so getting close to 12 years ago. But yeah, I've been watching the show for a few years before that, but I saw some friends at school playing the games, and so my first ever game was Ruby. It started with Trico, therefore that's my love, where my love for Sceptile comes from. So yeah, quite a long time.
Yeah, that's a pretty long time. Wait, so you were 9?
Yes.
Okay, so that must have been...
Yeah, I think I got my Game Boy Advance SP on my 9th birthday.
Oh, nice. So your first game was Gen 3 then?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I got a bit of a later start than a lot of other people, but...
I mean, that's still a pretty decently long time, though.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, competitive battling then, because I know your experience in competitive battling is probably not the same as other people, so how long have you been competitive battling?
Well, the first time I decided to actually, like, create any competitive battling Pokemon was in Black 2 version. I figured it out, and I EV trained some Pokemon, and I bred the right natures onto them, but I didn't IV breed because that was far more complicated in Gen 5. And I didn't really battle any other people. I only really took the Pokemon I'd created into the Pokemon World Tournament, and I won it, so that was awesome. With random IV Pokemon, but I started for real, like, breeding more legit Pokemon in Gen 6 when it became so much easier with the Destiny Knot, and so a lot of my competitive stuff was focused more on VGC, just because I got really into that, because I just liked watching the streams, and there was a tournament nearby and stuff like that. But I heard about the GBA earlier this year, and so I was like, oh, that's really awesome. Like, I want to be a part of this. And so when I was selected for the D-League, I was like, okay, I need to, because I knew about, like, how EVs and IVs work and all that stuff, and I know a lot of knowledge, but I needed to gain more knowledge for, the OU format, because I had less experience with the OU format, so that's what I've been practicing on these last few, 2 months or something like that.
Yeah. You're exactly the same as me in terms of the 5th gen stuff, because I only knew about the existence of competitive kind of like really late 5th gen, and then I bred some Mons and then like never used them because I realized that my internet on my old DS didn't connect to my Wi-Fi, so I literally had no one to battle with all my bred Pokemon. I was like, this didn't go well. But you say you've been trying to obviously trying to get more familiar with the OU format and the Smogon stuff as of late. So I'm taking it that means then you don't really have any experience battling in a league format before then.
Absolutely none.
Yeah. How do you think then that you're going to adapt to this kind of style? Because obviously it is very different to any other kind, whether it be VGC or Smogon or whatever. It is very different to anything like that. So how do you think you're going to try and adapt to this style of battling?
Well, thankfully, I have been getting a lot of help from my, I'm the coach of the Houston Gastros, but I have a personal coach in Miguel Mega Mogwai. He's been essentially kind of training me. He's a Pokemon trainer, ha ha ha. But he's been teaching me a lot. We've done laddering together, He helped me with my draft, and he's helping me build teams. So thankfully, I'm not just going into this, by myself, because if I was, I'd be very, very screwed. But so thankfully, I have a lot of help getting into it, which is great. But other than that, I'm going into this with a lot of other people who have experience before, and I kind of think that that's the best way to learn, because if I was battling other really inexperienced people, I think I would learn, but I wouldn't learn as fast. And so I think by doing this, I'm probably going to end up getting my butt kicked several times this season, but I think because of that, I'm going to end up learning a lot more faster, and therefore becoming better faster.
No, yeah, I completely agree with that, actually. I think that's a very good way to look at it. Because I think a lot of people would be, especially in your position, not having any experience, going up against people who've had, for example, someone like Baby Nick, Mighty Mammoth, who's been in a competitive league for nearly a year. Like, he's had quite a bit of experience. I think a lot of people would kind of feel intimidated by that. But I think that, I think that's definitely the right way to look at it, is just saying, well, this is the way I'm going to learn. And if you have an assistance from Miguel, I don't think you could have asked for a better assistant coach than Miguel. Obviously, the GBA Season 4 champion. So
yeah, definitely, I definitely got lucky with that coach assignment. He's been phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly. So you said before that you were trying to get familiar with the OU kind of style on Smogon. But in the GBA, with the new drafting system that was in place in Season 4, you have to now draft lower-tiered mons. It's now obligatory for you to draft lower-tiered mons. So are you comfortable using any kind of lower-tier mons? Do you play any lower tiers on Showdown, for example, or have you just been focusing on the OU stuff?
I haven't used a whole lot of lower-tier mons very much. Actually, looking at my draft, the only... This is kind of bad, but the only one I've used fairly consistently before was Mega Aerodactyl, and that was because when Miguel and I would do some laddering, he would give me teams to use, and Mega Aerodactyl was on a few of them, and I really liked using it and got comfortable with it, so we decided Mega Aerodactyl is what I wanted to draft for my Mega. But the other ones, I don't have any experience with, which is kind of scary. But at the same time, Miguel and I talked about it. He'd suggest, he'd say we should draft this, and I'd kind of question, like, I was sure, and then he'd convince me that, okay, yeah, that's something we should get. So I don't have experience with them, but I feel like I'll get experience with them pretty quick. Plus, it's nice with the draft format. If I'm going into like an RU tier battle on Showdown, they could come up with a mon there, and I'm like, I have literally no idea what you do. But, with the draft format, I know what Pokemon my opponent has, and therefore I can find out what they do beforehand. So that makes it less daunting.
Exactly, yeah. I think this is probably one of the best ways to learn, and I think a league format in particular is one of the best ways to learn competitive, and it really takes you to kind of another level with you just finding out information about Pokemon and the specifics of everything they can do, because the amount of research you do about your opponent's team when you know what they can bring is pretty great. You can go pretty in detail with your opponent's stuff, so
yeah,
I think that'll really help you. But we did briefly mention it, but we'll go into a bit more detail about that now. So it should also be on the screen, but the Houston Gastros for GBA D-League Season 2 is Mew, Raikou, RhyQuinn, Suicune, Cobalion, Togekiss, Spiritomb, Mega Aerodactyl, Darmanitan, Sork, and Go-Go. So are you pretty happy with your draft? You said you don't have much experience using any of them other than really Mega Aerodactyl, but are you still pretty happy with your draft?
Yeah, I feel pretty happy about it. I think the pick I was most excited about was Raikou because, it was great. Miguel and I, before the draft, he said, before we knew I had the #1 pick, he was like, okay, you should take Mew first, but if you can't get Mew, Raikou's probably then Raikou is also a really great Pokemon that you should get next. And then once we found out I got the first round pick, he was like, take Mew, we'll think of something else for Raikou because there's no way it's staying until, your next pick. And then it didn't get taken, and so I was like, yes! So I was ecstatic about Raikou, and the rest of the team I feel pretty good about. I think it's pretty balanced. At first I had a pretty strong ground weakness, but then I got Togekiss and Mega Aerodactyl that help a lot with that, and Go-Go gives another ground resistance. But the one pick that I was kind of less happy about was Darmanitan, because in the when the round was coming up to my wheel pick where I took Mega Aerodactyl and Darmanitan at the same time, I was hoping to get Entei, simply because it's a really good fire type. Sacred Fire and Extreme Speed are both really good, and then I'd have all 3 dogs, which would be really fun. But unfortunately it was taken, and so I had to try and figure out, because I didn't, we didn't think of a backup plan, so I kind of held up the draft for a little bit, trying to figure out, talk with Miguel, what do we take instead? And we thought about a few different ones, but we ended up settling in Darmanitan, just to have another good offensive fire type. But overall, I like my draft. I guess I'll have to see how it actually plays. But I'm pretty pleased with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Darmanitan's a pretty good replacement for Entei. Obviously, it's not Entei. It doesn't have that priority in extreme speed, and it's not, as bulky as Entei, but it still hits like an absolute truck.
Yeah.
So it's still pretty damn good, in my opinion, anyway. But yeah, I mean, in my opinion, at least, your draft looks very, very solid. But bearing in mind your draft and looking at everyone else's drafts, because I don't think there's actually particularly a bad draft per se out of any of the 8 teams in the D League this season. What are your expectations for this season? What do you want to achieve?
Well, so I'm definitely not expecting to win at all. I have the least amount of experience. I'm still new to all of this. It'd be unrealistic for me to expect to win, especially when we've got a lot of other really great battlers who have a heck of a lot more experience than me. I'm the guy who started laddering on Showdown in OU for the first time 4 weeks ago. But I think my main goal is, of course, have fun. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think I was going to have fun, but also to learn a lot, just because, the best way to get better at something is by doing it. And so I think by doing this league and, probably losing, but at the same time, learning and getting better, then in future draft league seasons, wherever it happens to be, I can be even better and then, of course, do better. So my number 1 goal is have fun. My number 2 goal is to learn a lot. And then I'd say my number 3 goal is to win at least a few battles, because going 0-8, I think we do 8, yeah, 0-8 would kind of suck. So I think I have a decent chance to win at least, a few. So
I think that would be preferable, to try and win at least one.
Yeah,
would be nice. But bearing in mind, everyone else's teams and things, who do you think you're most looking forward to playing this season? Whether it be because you think you have a good matchup, or it's just someone you're really looking forward to playing. Who are you most looking forward to playing this season?
Well, my number 1 pick, or not my number 1 pick, my week 1 matchup is against George Septal MC, coach of the San Francisco Arcaniners, who from what I've heard is by far the favorite to win this match, or win the league, because he's really good, has a really good team, and he has the most experience. And so at first when I found out I was playing in week 1, I was like, oh, that sucks. What a way to start, getting the tar beat out of me. But as I kind of talked with Miguel and talked with John, I kind of figured out, okay, in the words of Miguel, he told me, you have nothing to lose. So everyone's expecting you to lose. So if you lose, it's okay. If you win, you break the internet. and so I was like, I guess that's a good way to think about it. And John told me, he was like, don't play to win, play to learn. And so going into that match, at first I was like, oh, that sucks. But now it's kind of like, okay, I'm not expecting to do really great with this, but I think it'll be good for me to I think I'll learn a lot from the match, which I'm looking forward to. And also, it'll be my first ever GBA match, which is just exciting by itself. But then other matchups, looking at my schedule, I think it'll be fun to play Gearhart. I think I have a good matchup against his team, and also Nick. I think my team has a good matchup against his as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for him, but the George match is going to be interesting this week.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's almost like a good thing. Coming up against George so early means that if you're going to learn, you should learn against, well, as people are saying, the best. He may not be actually the best, but he's quite clearly the favorite to win, this season. So if you're going to play him in week 1, learn from him, and then hopefully you're in better standing for the following weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
Always try and turn things into a positive. So last question, just before we wrap things up. Who do you think, aside from yourself, of course, is someone to watch out for this season? Whether it be someone that you think is just going to wreck shop, or you think someone who's a bit of a dark horse or something like that. Who do you think is someone to watch out for this season?
Well, definitely George. I definitely do think he's the favorite to win. But another one that I think could be a very, very tough opponent would be Makati or Makati. I'm not sure. Not sure about the pronunciation, but the Buffalon Bills, I think is another one that's another team that's going to do quite well. He's got Hippowdon, and that the Hippowdon and Excadrill combo is a strong one with Sandrush, and he during the draft, Miguel was saying, at first he thought one of my NU picks should be Samurott for the sole purpose of countering Will's team. So and so I think he's going to be another one that is going to be one of the top contenders. So I think I believe him and George are in the same division. So I'm predicting that those two are going to have the strongest fight for the winner of their division.
That is going to be a match and a half if that does happen. I think George versus Will is going to be a huge match if that does happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, with that said, I think that is going to wrap everything up. So thank you to you, Mike, for taking this time to come and do this interview.
Yeah, of course. It was lots of fun.
Yeah, no worries. So with that said, that's going to wrap everything up. So thank you very much for watching not just this interview, but all the Meet the Coach interviews. I hope you guys have got to know the coaches a little bit better for GBA D-League Season 2. And if you guys are excited for the season to start, which is this Sunday, leave a comment down below showing your hype. And between now and then, we have just a few videos. We've got some power rankings with John and Miguel. We've got bold predictions from all the analysts. We have and pre-game predictions, potentially, with Fufu and Under the Radar. So if you're excited for those and you're excited for the season, leave your hype in the comments. It's coming very, very soon. GBA D-League Season 2 is coming. So, with that said, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys in another video very, very soon. Toodaloo.